Welcome to episode 509 of the Red Dirt Agronomy Podcast. I am Dave Deacon, and have we got a great episode for you. If you've ever looked across your wheat field and thought, those weeds are about to take over my yield, this episode is for you. Today we're sitting down with Dr. Liberty Galvin from Oklahoma State University at the 2026 AgriFest in Enid, and we're talking about what's actually working right now to keep wheat clean, especially when the old reliable spray program isn't getting it done like it used to. We'll dig into the decisions that separate a clean field from a frustrating one, like timing, pre-emergent strategies, and cultural practices that can make your herbicide work better instead of harder. And of course, as always, you will be able to find all of the information we talk about in this episode and past episodes on our website, reddirtagronomy.com. But first, as always, we start with a quick trip around the table for an introduction to the dream team of dirt and everything that grows from it. Let's start with Oklahoma State University Extension Precision Nutrient Management Specialist.
I spray and pray, they spray and rate.
Dr. Brian Arnell. And of course, next to him is Oklahoma State University Extension Cropping System Specialist.
The spaghetti is starting to form a design on the wall. She is throwing up spaghetti.
Dr. Josh Lofton. Let's kick off our conversation with Dr. Liberty Galvin that was recorded on January 9th, 2026 at the Oklahoma Wheat Commission's booth during the 2026 AgriFest in Enid. You are listening to the Red Dirt Agronomy Podcast.
We are T-minus 5 minutes on bread. Is that what?
Oh, yeah. So,
What?
no.
We got to wrap this
30
up.
minutes.
Oh.
I feel like that was 25 minutes ago.
That was 10 minutes ago. Jesus Criminy.
So once again, we're over here at the KNID AgriFest in Enid, and it has been a great show so far. We are catty corner from the Oklahoma Wheat Commission booth, and special thanks to them for making our booth possible.
Is it catty corner or kitty corner?
You know, I noticed that in the...
Over yonder.
Well, no, that's too far. They're just there. Over yonder would mean on the other side of the room.
It depends. If you tried to do the worm over to them, you'd probably think it's pretty far.
I have no desire to do that. So that's why I just say catty corner.
Our guest is like, what the hell?
and actually, she's acting this out as we're trying to decipher this. So that's the best part. And of course, our guest is Dr. Liberty Galvin with Oklahoma State University. And Liberty, welcome back to the program. It's taken a long time, but you finally said yes. I'm doing nothing else that day. And actually, you were in the booth next to us.
We just grabbed her
in your eyes
over there.
and finally, she relented, and now she's on the show. So thank you so much for finally coming back to the program.
Thanks, you guys. Happy to be here.
But are you? I mean, I'm getting mixed signals here.
I feel like I'm gaining years onto my life with how hilarious this is.
So many times we take people hours and days and years off of people's lives. So this is good.
Yeah.
Nice reverse.
It's good to be on the other side of the coin sometimes.
So Liberty, how are things going in your program?
Good. I have been having some interesting conversations with folks recently about new faculty strategy. My strategy has been the spaghetti plate method, and I've tried a lot of stuff. We're finally sort of settling down. I don't know. 2026.
The spaghetti is starting to form
fall.
a design on the wall. She is throwing up spaghetti.
Project 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 have now
whole wheat spaghetti, by the way.
Oh, well done. Well done. Yes.
Oh, not sorghum spaghetti?
Nope.
Okay.
So
whole wheat with the grain for extra fiber.
Wheat.
How long have you been with Oklahoma State now?
So I started in October of 2023. So
wow.
Yeah, October of this past 2025. So what is it? 2.5 years now?
2.5 years.
I know.
Yeah. That's awesome.
People speak to me like I've been here a long time.
Right.
They're like, Liberty, get it together.
Well, and I'm sure it goes the other way, too. They're like, oh, you're still a newcomer. No, I've been here long enough.
A little bit,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm past the probationary program.
I still don't know anything, but I'm here.
Well, that's good. That's good.
You're at the right table.
I'm here. Oh, thank God.
We're glad to have you.
Thanks.
I think it was just last year that I stopped being referred to as Chad Gotze's replacement.
Oh.
Yeah.
Somebody stop? Huh? I still.
I know you do. That's because you're you, though.
True.
So what are you, as you've been building the program, what are you hearing from producers? What is your focus kind of funneled into?
So the first line of my job description is small grains, so I've been working a lot in wheat. This last fall, we got some money from the Wheat Commission to put in a pre-emergent herbicide study. So we're looking at a couple of different products that are already registered for wheat, including a couple that are not yet registered for wheat, but they're registered in other crops. That has been exciting and a great learning experience because Lahoma, Perkins, and Chickasha are real different places, night and day.
Yeah.
Lahoma is like our beautiful, perfect wheat growing field. Things came up. We shot them with the herbicides. It's clean. Chickasha had Johnson grass until November.
Wow.
And my student was like, what are we going to do about this? I'm like, there's no moisture. Like, we're going to, in our conventional planted and then in our delayed planted, we're doing different things. We kind of tried to kill it with some tillage, but it killed itself because there was no moisture. And the heat was great for it. So seeing really, really different things. But that pre-emergent herbicide study is going really well. And then I have another student. I'm doing a collaboration with Amanda Silva, and we're looking at cultural weed control. So we actually have 7 different systems that we're comparing to each other. We're looking at 3 different varieties, and a big thing that I've talked with Brett Carver about and Amanda is with all the varieties that we currently have, which one is going to be competitive?
Right.
Like, we don't really look at our varieties from this like competitive aspect against weeds. We look at yield and like different metrics like that, which is really important. But because we've identified so much resistance, like herbicide resistant grasses in wheat, I'm trying to get people to think about like, we already have these tools. We already know how to use them. So let's figure out like ideally, an ideal situation is a dense crop planted at the right time, that the canopy closes really quickly.
Right.
Weeds are not able to compete because that crop is strong and robust, and then they can't come up in the spring because the ground is shaded.
Yeah.
So that's something that we're looking at with that. We're calling it an IPM study, cultural weed control study, variety selection, bouncing off of where Misha started with planting timing. So down in Chickasha, our delayed planted, which was like, I think, when was that? A little before Thanksgiving, like a week or 2 before Thanksgiving, our delayed planted plots look incredible.
Wow.
Spotless.
Okay.
Yeah.
Incredible from a we need weed or we don't want weeds?
We don't want weeds. We're trying to kill them. We're trying to kill them. Yeah.
Okay.
We know
I just wanted to verify that.
we need,
Good from a wheat field perspective.
yeah, from a wheat field.
Okay.
So we need the weeds to be there
Okay.
so that we can do the control experiments.
Right. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, so clean. You can still see bare ground. Like, clean is an interesting word to use there. But when I say clean as a weed scientist, I mean no weeds.
Right.
Yeah. So
Wow.
and that's because people don't think about the like biology of weeds, you know. Your winter weeds are not going to come up until it's cooler. And they also need moisture, right? So if you delay planting and you have the opportunity to get in there around your rainy events, you can kill that first flush before you plant or at the timing of planting, depending on what your strategy is. So we were able to kill a bunch of weeds this fall with our delayed planted treatments, but our wheat is not as robust as our conventional planting time. So I think there's actually advantages to both. Yeah, like our graze, our dual purpose guys that plant for grazing, their crop is bushy by the time conventional is happening in October, conventional planting in mid-October. And I actually think there may be a massive advantage to that for our grain-only folks. But then the delayed planting is also an opportunity for weed control. So I think it kind of depends on the person, their operation, the weeds that they already have. Like if you don't have a ton of weeds, maybe you do plant really early and then you don't do any fall weed control. Yeah. So there's just a lot of cool stuff that's like coming out of our research that I'm like, oh my God, there's 12 new questions that I have, you know?
Well, so I wanted to ask you a question because it's something we were kind of talking about earlier, and earlier, I mean, on another podcast. But
Today, last month, I'm
would you let me ask my question?
The podcast previous to this.
The other day.
So, but you said the later ones aren't as competitive.
Well, in theory, because they didn't get good moisture this fall, and so they're at like the 5 leaf stage, and then they went into dormancy. So the soil's like still visible. Weeds are gonna have an easy time coming up in the spring.
But when we talk about Brian's weed or wheat management system, that we want smaller plants going in because they didn't use the resources in the fall, which inherently almost go to waste sometimes. And they're potentially available then for... So would that not make them more competitive than in the spring? Than the ones that maybe got really bushy, had dieback, and now we're having to regrow with potentially reduced, deeper soil moisture.
Yeah. So there is an advantage to that dieback because it's still covering the soil, in theory, right? So you're still... In theory. You're still suppressing seed germination by reducing the amount of light that is hitting the soil surface.
Well, I mean, and maybe if we're talking about like small-seeded, really easy to kill weeds, I would agree with you on, but like it's kind of like, oh, well, we can control pigweed with shade. No, we can't. We can slow it down a little bit, but we ain't controlling pigweed. It's the same thing with ryegrass. We ain't controlling ryegrass with a little bit of shade. What we can do is maybe make it a little slower.
So Italian ryegrass actually has a 50% decrease in germination in the dark. So we are actually decreasing germination by increasing the canopy cover and increasing the soil cover.
So, but when do most of the Italian ryegrass germinate and are there would you say pre-dormancy or post-dormancy?
Depends on who you ask. So from my observations, our bromes, the jointed goat grass, that stuff has come up this fall. I have seen some Italian ryegrass around, but it is not as consistently... like up and germinating and establishing in the fall the way that some of our other weedy grasses are. I've had some growers that say, oh, I don't get any Italian ryegrass germination in the fall. It's all in the spring. And I'm like, well, I have a picture on my phone from Perkins of an Italian ryegrass plant that I snapped a picture of in September.
See, because that's my big thing is that, yes, but that's under the assumption that your brome species, your Italian ryegrass, aren't going to come up until... green up in the spring, but inherently that isn't 100% always truthful. So that would be fine. But then again, I'm talking about whenever you talk about recharge potential, and we're talking about that residue covering, that's assuming surface potential recharge. But when we're talking about sub 24-inch, 36-inch. Unless we're getting big snowpack, I mean, are you expecting that to get recharged in the winter? Well, no. But if it's always there because we didn't take up the weed early, that's a good thing, right? Because then that's available for the spring. Or am I thinking too much into this here?
Well, so this gets into...
I don't work in weed a lot, so...
We should have warned Liberty that we're playing the Brian and Josh game with being counterpoint, because this has always been an argument I could have with myself as far as delayed management. I want to reduce the size of the plants because it makes them more competitive for nutrients and stuff later, but it makes them the system more apt to have a higher amount of germination. So I'd say your weed control needs to be on top of it when you're doing the delayed in that, because you do have more open soil, even in no-till, to get that germ up. But we also see that open soil. I will tell you that it seems like we get a better green up in the wheat when I've got more soil bare in that spring, and that goes, other than something that's kind of sloughed back. And that has a later jump.
You even see that with like soil warming potential and stuff like that.
So I will say the products that we have available, so a lot of people like our pre-emergent soil applied products, Anthem Flex, Zidua, you can use Zidua in the spring, but it is a soil applied. And so if you have that dense canopy, that's not going to work for you. So,
and we're a heavy user of Zidua in the spring because we have little wheats.
Yeah.
Love Zidua.
So there is an opportunity with that delayed planted system, we've killed everything in the fall. Now we still have bare ground in the spring, but we could hit it with Zidua at green up. And then if you planted like a clear field variety, Zidua is a peroxysulfone. I think that's a group 14. And then the post-applied products, so like your Clearfield, Beyond, we're going to put out some Everest. Those are different modes of action. So in theory,
you can really mix up your chemistries in that method.
Yeah, and you can change up your timings of application. Now, I feel like a clown talking about herbicide inputs because $4 a bushel wheat, you can't pay for a herbicide application. So what I'm like, hit it 3 times with a herbicide, fall, green up, late spring. Well, that kind of doesn't work for some people. So that's also why I got into that.
You say that, but dense we've got some bad fields that are so taken over with Italian ryegrass that the dockages are so great that it does take 2 passes, and you can't do. We've got some chemistry blends when we're trying to clean up the long term. So long terms get nasty, and we will spend some money to clean them up. Those are $40, $50, $60 a shot because we're doing 2-3-way metribuzin, Ziduas, axial, and then a follow-up. Now, that's not something now, but I do think that even under $4 wheat, a producer that's grain only that understands how they can market and push through and see their dockages is that they are still going to be paying attention to proper timing and know that a good herbicide is going to pay in the long run, even though it may not seem that way. It will
definitely.
Well, and my big thing for asking you that question is I love that late planted wheat system. I think it's great because it's taking the advantages that we've learned in summer crops, that delaying planting to let that first flush of weeds kill those weeds, now come in now maybe instead of a $70, $50, $60 pre-plant, maybe I can get away with a $30 pre-plant. And then I can push that money for an in-season, and maybe I can make 2 additional applications because I'm not dealing with things that are emerged and unemerged, and so I love that system, and I know how challenging it is for some growers that have planted the 15th of October for their entire lives of saying, maybe November 1 is the right time. But again, it's kind of like what you talked about. If we have pristine conditions and we've already had that first flush of weeds, maybe the 15th of October is fine this year. But if we're dry like we were this year, maybe November 1 is that right time. But it's that window of opportunity for growers to go in and do these kind of things.
The other thing, too, with that IPM study, that cultural control, we have combinations of fall and spring weed control, as well as a planting timing treatment and a variety selection treatment. And so with a couple of those systems, we didn't have any fall herbicide applications, but we're still doing tillage to get the bed ready. So you could, with delayed planting, replace a herbicide application with tillage because those weeds have already come up. In theory, if you've got
for the good or bad,
tens of thousands.
We're doing that no-till, though. I mean, we're really doing that in a lot of our no-till. When we're going in that second week of November, we're only doing roundup. Getting that roundup, getting wheat in, socking it deep in no-till, and then coming at the first green up with our heavy shot of whether it's a Zidua or something along those lines, hitting it, and it's maintaining us really well in the later planted stuff. Now I'm talking things that we're usually dry, we're going to moisture, we're not getting winter rain, so we don't expect a lot of flushes, get that burned down and come in. And then, like I told you earlier, I'm hoping this rain for some of our ground. This is the first rain that I would say a third or better of my wheat ground has seen since burn down. But my wheat's good because we socked it in 2.5 inches deep. Wheat's ripping and rolling. And we've been scouting. We don't really have hardly any weeds, but we need that flush.
Yeah. So there's a few interesting things. I saw a sprayer out the other day, and I was like, no, it's not time.
Yes.
So, understanding the growing cycle is a big thing. There was something else that you said
that made you want to throw up in your mouth. I understand that feeling.
No, there was a really good
all the time.
point. The burn down product. So I have he just graduated, but a student of mine who farms with his dad up near Waukeeta, near the Kansas border. They do a lot of no-till, and I was like, hey, do you use pre's? And he's like, no, we use burndowns. And actually, for that pre-emergent study, we put in a burndown just to like compare it. And EFA is our no-till site. Connor said EFA looks dazzling with the burn down product, not the pre-products.
Wow.
And it was
really,
because
the rainfall did.
Well, you're not getting good soil contact if you have all that residue on the soil surface. So he put out Finesse. Finesse had incredible burn down from the summer. Also killed the weeds that were coming up from the cold. It's still looking good. Anthem Flex actually, Anthem Flex was fine, but it didn't have outstanding weed control. And then the other secret product, it's not registered for wheat, so I can't talk about it, but it's actually a new encapsulated formulation of 2 products that we already have on the market.
Okay.
So I told somebody the other day, and they're like, oh, I can make up that mix myself. I was like, okay, well, we're not, okay. We're just going to call this the secret product.
Right.
But that product actually had really good burn down and really good fall weed control and had the least amount of crop injury. So it's the biggest challenge since starting my job is wrapping my head around these distinct systems of no-till wheat has to be treated very differently. Graze-only wheat has to be treated very differently, and then our grain-only guys.
And
so
that's one of the reasons we have transited, because I've been no-till heavy in my program since basically 2010, maybe 2009 when I first started. But we've been full-on no-till. In our dry falls, you put a residual down and you don't get rain for 45 days, you just got to say,
it's gone. That residual's gone.
And so the burn downs have, in the weather patterns that we have, those dry winters have been heavy residue no-till ground, have been fairly decent. I mean, I have misses for sure.
Yeah.
But have not been horrible.
So speaking on that no-till stuff, at the winter crop school, after winter crop school, I got a call from a guy that was like, hey, if you're going to till up a bunch of no-till fields, you should come and talk to me, because I did that last year and I have some thoughts.
Well, I was going to tell you another story here on the podcast, but you go ahead with what you're saying.
Well, he was just talking about soil moisture. If you're going to till up your no-till fields, there's actually an optimal time, precision tillage, there's 100%. An optimal timing to do that. My hope is that, so next July, we're going to get into this with my old student, but also a couple, I think, I'm not going to say his name. Somebody over there said that they were interested. But there's really good evidence that if you do this maybe only every 5 years, you can really battle resistance. You're not going to lose a lot of soil, soil carbon and some of those properties. But this gentleman was like, hey, if there's too much soil moisture and you have really heavy clay texture, you're not turning anything. You're just slicing into it. And now you have literal clay plates in the field 100%. Where you can see your whole seed bank, because it's all sliced out there for you. So I think there's how do we minimize erosion, maximize weed control, and then get our ground covered really fast?
The conversation has to go along the lines of anybody that's ran a sweep plow knows that you shouldn't sweep when it's too wet, because all you do is create that clay film and you don't run a sweep.
Yeah.
What I was going to tell you was it just so happens that at Lahoma and my terrace of Lahoma across from the long terms towards the creek bottom, we need some tillage, and they were going to take the ripper out there, and I said no. So we just pulled multiple cores. It's an 80 by 600. We pulled cores every 50 foot going down to 3 foot deep, and they're going to flip it on Tuesday.
Incredible.
We're dry soil.
Cool.
And we've got residue. I don't have seed banks, but we do have residue from everything. And so what we're going to do, and this is kind of on the soil side, most of the work that's looked at the flipping of the soil has only reanalyzed the top surface. We're going to look at that interface. We're going to go down and find the interface of that till versus non-till and look at the organics. We'll look at what's there a year from now, 6 years from now, and relook. But I just ordered the seed. We'll go in with spring oats as soon as we get the soil settled in, and then probably plant corn, full season corn.
So one thing I want to ask here is, how long does
Only one?
seed? Yeah, no, I'm down to one this time.
Well, this answer will be long.
How long will a weed seed stay in that seed bank? I know I know it varies from plant to plant, but
it does. So your grasses generally, because the shape of the cotyledon is so straight, if it is buried too deeply in the soil, it's not going to make it.
Right.
And so a lot of our grasses only really germinate from the soil surface. And if you're germinating from the soil surface, you are exposed to a lot more like weather, climate.
Right.
So most of those weeds have, like, through their life history, been forced to have a short dormancy. And their whole strategy is to produce as many seeds as possible and get them to fall to the ground.
Right.
Now your broadleafs are a different story because their cotyledon is not the same.
Yeah.
And these are annuals, right? So like your Johnson grass as a perennial is going to behave very differently.
Yeah.
But your broadleaf weeds, partially because they can emerge from deeper depths. There's Lamb's Quarter, Canopodium album. I think it has like a 60-year dormancy.
Wow.
And that's not all the time,
yeah.
But my theory is that you could probably put a seed in a vacuum-sealed jar and it will be here when the world explodes and a cockroach will feast on that seed, when we're not here anymore.
Right.
Yeah. So it depends on the...
beside it.
Yeah. So it depends on the species, but you can kind of split the broadleafs and the grasses generally, like short, quote unquote short, less than 5 years, and then more than 5 years.
Does seed size have any impact on that?
So seed size, sort of, but more like the greater impact is the seed coat. So that like physical, like the hard seeds that have to like have scarification, those just like are physically wearing armor. And so they'll last in the soil longer because their like physiological germination switch can't switch because they're in a cage, basically. Yeah. So the seed size thing comes more into like the germinability depth. So smaller seeds really have a harder time germinating from depth because they have less nutrient in the seed, and you need more nutrient to physically push through the soil.
Right.
So you'll find bigger batter seeds deeper in the depths and smaller ones at the top, but not it.
If we bury a seed,
also,
if we bury a seed at 12 inches deep, will it germinate or rot?
It depends on the species. If you don't touch it, depending on the dormancy, the annual grasses will probably rot. Yeah, because they don't have a hard seed coat. That's their dormancy is about 3 years. This is actually a study that I've really wanted to do that a bunch of people were like, don't do that because you won't be able to publish it pre-tenure. But I'm like, it's so cool. There's some really, really cool long-term dormancy studies. And what you do is you bury a ton of seeds in different mesh bags and you pull them up every year. So if you bury 10 bags, you pull them up, take some seeds out, bury them again. And that's a lot of times how people like do the dormancy studies.
Really?
So like someone buried Lamb's Quarter for 30 years and then was like, wow, okay.
That's what I love about
on their hands.
That's what I love about you scientists. You all are like, well, I'm going to do this over the next 15 years, 20 years. And the rest of us are like, we can't do that.
Yeah.
You guys are like long-term thinkers, and you got to verify that stuff. So that's great.
Yeah. Well, and people want to know what the dormancy is. And with this tillage study that I'm proposing for these no-till guys, their worry is what is lurking in the depths. What are we going to pull up? Most of the guys I'm talking to haven't done any tillage since the mid-90s, which is when Roundup ready crops first came on the scene.
Yeah.
And my theory that I'm desperately trying to sell them on is that they probably don't have any herbicide-resistant seeds deep in the profile. So it's okay if something nasty that you aren't familiar with comes up because you can kill it with Roundup.
That's true.
Yeah. So that's my proposal. Till up your field.
So
shoot everything.
Let me ask you a question, because before you really got heavy back in the pumpkin patch down there on South Perkins, so we did a lot of work down in the south area, and we had some big issues with like some Johnson grass and some mare's tail and stuff like that. So at one point in time, I got this bright idea that we were going to do a deep rip and a deep flip.
Indeed. Okay. Yeah.
Because I was just tired of dealing with Johnson grass. Because we're grown sorghum down there, and so Johnson grass. So talking about the things that you bring up, you know what we brought up?
Pumpkins.
Crabgrass.
I was going to say more Johnson grass.
so to go on your theory, God help us. To go on your theory, was that just because everything else was just maybe I didn't bring up crabgrass, maybe everything else was kind of out competing the crabgrass, or is there some instances where something that is a relatively small annual grass can survive? I don't know when the last time that was flipped down there beyond that.
For sure. I mean, yeah.
I mean, could it survive 10 years down there and just be all of a sudden, huzzah, here we come?
There's always exceptions to these like very generic rules of like grasses do this, broadleafs do that.
Because I herald that as the worst mistake I've ever made in my entire career.
Yeah, but down there, I could tell you that same year we probably at Crabgrass probably ate our lunch up on my 15-year no-till plots too, because Perkins can be the hell of crabgrass.
Yeah, I think that was the first weed that we did happen. That we flipped it they flipped it to get rid of the crabgrass, and then I got tired of dealing with Johnson grass, so I reflipped it and I just brought the crabgrass back.
You've got enough seed bank around you where
it was a disaster. We didn't deal with crabgrass for my first like 2 or 3 years, and then here we came. So
the Michael Flessner that also came to the winter crop school, I was kind of talking to him about this, and he was like, yeah, they have a quote-unquote short dormancy until you select for the ones that don't. And I was like, that's like, that is weed science in a nutshell. Selection pressure is like what drives all of these problematic trends. Yeah. And so it's a tool in the toolbox, you know. And so I've been getting into drones too. And we're talking about like we're talking about multi-pronged strategies. You know, it's like you can't just till, you know.
Yeah.
Like it's not going to work. You can't just spray because now you have resistance, you know, like you can spray all you want. It's not going to work.
Well, the good thing is it keeps you employed because there's always
I love it. Yeah. Love to be here. Love to hear people tell me their problems.
I have solved all the weed problems. Wait, now there's a new one.
Oh, no.
So I did want to ask you a non-weed science, but more about yourself kind of question, because you are kind of still relatively new. So a lot of people might have known Todd Bauman from around the state, and you and him are very different weed scientists.
We are.
You are definitely, I think you said in your interview is that you are 100% a weed ecologist. And so
I'm an applied weed ecologist.
What is that compared to what you would consider Todd Bauman, you know, your counterpart was previously here?
Spray and pray?
I was going to say, behind...
See, we said that, not you. So
yeah. You don't have to get the phone call, we'll get it.
That's okay. I'm going to throw another one in there. We call them nozzle heads.
Absolutely.
It's the guys that do the spray and pray stuff. They're very invested in the chemistry.
Sorry, not spray and pray, spray and rate.
Spray and rate. You're right. I spray and pray. They spray and rate. Well, sometimes you pray for resistance because it gets you the publication that you want. You know, it's like sometimes you're praying for the wrong things. So it's actually really interesting. I'm a member of the European Weed Research Society. Our European colleagues view weeds as just like another plant out there. It has a purpose. It's there for a reason, and if you know why it's there. So like Poa annua, what is that? Little bluegrass. Little bluegrass. Yeah. It likes the anaerobic spaces. Like there's a reason that those weeds are growing there. You know, like you see clover in a grass lawn because probably there's no nitrogen there, and so the thing that's growing is the legume, right? So the Europeans are like, oh, why is this here? What purpose does it serve? What can we do with this? Now, I'm not saying they don't use herbicides, but 90% of the weed scientists in the U.S., they study herbicides. They're herbicide physiologists. They're looking into trait technology. They're looking into nozzle technology, timing of application. Like all that stuff is really, really valuable. When I was in college at OSU, I was an environmental science student, and I was one of those nerds that was like, oh my God, I love the environment. And now as a grown adult, I'm like, oh, actually, the biggest impact that I can have is to optimize the chemistries that we already have. So I think of myself as an ecologist because I'm still using all the herbicides. I'm just figuring out, what did I say at winter crop school last year? I was like, you can't kill an enemy that you don't know.
And so my approach is like, well, if you understand the biology and the ecology of the weed that you're trying to kill, you can find weak points in its growing cycle and exploit those weak points with herbicides, tillage, fire, grazing, whatever you want. So that's like my ecology piece, but I always get shoved into the biology and ecology sections at the Weed Science Society of America because I don't work always with herbicides. Like my germination work, they were like, wow, that's not agronomy, that's ecology. It's like, well, okay, but I'm using it to optimize the timing of application in a stale seed bed, like a pre-plant burn down for, the crop I was working in. So it's all intertwining.
As a weed ecologist, as an agronomist and soil fertility specialist, I've been told by several that if I could just get the soil healthy enough and have the right nutrients, there'd never be another weed. As a weed ecologist, can you share with me is this correct?
So I think we also forget that like weeds have biological features that make them weeds, and you can have the healthiest soil you've ever had and you have a bindweed problem.
And it will grow well too,
and it'll grow great because your soil's perfect.
It's a good healthy soil.
It's got a healthy soil. I think like people don't realize like the crop environment, the field environment, we manage the hell out of that, and we optimize it for plant growth. Weeds are plants.
Yeah.
So wherever you're growing a crop, if you have any seeds, or if your neighbors have seeds, or if you have birds or animals, you are going to get weed seeds in your field.
So one thing you mentioned earlier was a word that I have not heard in weed control. Fire. How could that be a tool used in crop production and weed control?
So I actually I had a student that was he was going to start a master's degree with me, but he had a wildland firefighting background.
Yeah.
And we really wanted to look at controlled burns in wheat. Again, Michael Flessner from Virginia Tech has done some work in this, but in Oklahoma we have a prescribed burn association in almost every county. Yeah. And the guys that graze are right next door to the guys that grow wheat that also graze are right next door to the guys that grow wheat.
Right.
And that burning research actually originally started in Australia, where they did the work. They realized that you can't just set the field on fire.
Right.
The fire doesn't get hot enough. You're just burning your carbon. And so what they do is they create a chaff lining where they're basically taking all of the stubble off the field, putting it in a windrow, and then lighting the windrow on fire. And I was in California in 2018 and 2020 during the Car Fire and the Paradise Fire, so I don't play games with fire.
Right.
But we have, like, John Weir was actually advising me on some of that stuff. And smoke management is your biggest issue, but those windrows, assuming that the environment is right, like if you've got too much moisture, you're not going to set anything on fire, and if it's too dry, it's risky. Right. And if the wind picks up and whatever. So we had kind of talked about that, and there's some pretty good research out of Arkansas that they were able to kill, I think it was like 90% of the Italian ryegrass seeds that they found in the chaff.
Wow.
If they set them on fire. Now, the environment's got to be right. Like it's not, again, it's a tool in the toolbox. I wrote a grant to the Weed Science Society of America, and they were like, this is a cool project. Come back with some preliminary data. And then I lost my student who was the fire person, and I'm just a lowly weed scientist,
And I tell you, I mean, I'm not promoting, let me put this out there in the airwaves, I'm not promoting that this is how it gets done, but I mean, for our double crop systems, that is a very common way to go in through there. And when I was back in Louisiana, a lot of people like fire because it also helped dry the soil.
Well, yeah.
And for them, that was the limitation.
Soil drying is important down there.
Soil drying is important down there. But so what we end up doing on our plots that we were looking at different residue management is we almost create a windrow because we want to consolidate and make sure the middle of the plot where we're going to do it is burning. So when we take soil samples, when we do everything, we have a concise little area that we do. Plus, we kind of manage to where it doesn't go to the other plots on the side of it.
Right.
And where we burn is often where the least amount of weeds are, because we do have some impact on at least that really top area, to whether it creates an environment that the weeds don't germinate or whether we're actually degrading the weeds. I don't know, but now it's not beyond that first year. That first year is the only time we see it.
Yeah.
But that year, that double crop soybean, it does not have residue, but it also does not have nearly the weeds that like tilling does.
Yeah. Looks
and so
cleaner.
it's a little bit different. And back when I was doing range stuff, that's kind of what you would see is that the first species coming back are very isolated. Maybe they're not the ones you want, but it's not like we have this big flush of like 60,000 different types. We usually have very, very early succession, 1 or 2 species that come back very quickly, and then everything else kind of fills in the gap later in the years to come. But there is something to that, and I don't know what, but...
So the Australian research would suggest that you're just burning the seed. Like, it's just getting so hot that it can't germinate, and so it's a destruction. The
interesting thing of interest there is, so we've also done, and Lisa Foltz out of, well, now she's in Maryland, was at LSU, did the work at Texas Tech, but found that even if we are causing that kind of that weed-free zone, we aren't degrading the organic matter. So there's like a little, there's like a fine line area between burning through the carbon in the organic matter and degrading, getting it hot enough to degrade the seed where it's not germinating. So we're maybe not destroying it, but maybe we're decreasing that germinability a little bit. So there's a fine line there, and you can get it too hot, and it can be too cold of a burn, or too low temperature of a burn that it won't do that.
And the other thing too, it's only really a post-harvest strategy.
Right.
Like if you have a really, really weedy year and you have a lot of seeds that are going to drop to the ground, that's a good opportunity. But it's not an in-season. It might be a like a quote-unquote pre-season literal burn down, or a post-harvest thing. I'm thinking about over in Chickasha establishing a long-term chaff lining study, because there's a bunch of people that really liked Michael's ideas about like, well, if you have weeds or whatever, just put it in these rows, and instead of spraying the whole field,
just spray that.
Just spray the 10%. You're saving a ton on chemicals. And he even mentioned, I don't know if you guys heard this, but he even mentioned that after some time, it turns into like a mulch thatch. So like, even if you're still adding to it, it's almost doing its own weed control within itself, which I thought was super fascinating. So I'm actually really curious, like what would a long-term established...
Very fascinating. If you attended winter crops and you didn't get everything from that presentation, that's one to go back and listen to.
The presentation is on wintercropschool.com.
Along with you, man. That was. I was.
That was a good little discussion.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that even coming from Virginia, I feel like a lot of applicability on the same struggles that we're going through. Specifically in wheat, and what we can do to kind of help mitigate some of that.
Well, and I didn't want to be disrespectful, but he was like, it's pretty risky to burn, like, this, that, and the other. And I was like, I know a guy. Just like thinking about John Weir, I was like, I know a guy who would help me do a controlled burn, and he wouldn't let it get out of control. I just like tell myself that,
It's just second nature to this part of the world.
I was about to say, no, you're talking shaft lines. That's not a controlled burn. That's just an afternoon fun day.
That's just a Thursday,
I mean, a controlled burn is when you have 300 acres of cedars that's 40 foot tall and you need a bulldozer.
Well, that's controlled burn. Dave wouldn't know anything about that.
God, no, man.
More than likely, they'll just line that chaff line up to their burn pile and just let it go right to that burn pile.
Well,
that's brilliant. Yeah,
you could even do racing if you get 2 chaff lines and light the left one and the right one. See how much
we are talking about a fun afternoon activity.
We are. Yeah, that sounds like a drinking game.
What are you guys doing after this? Well, that's really interesting. I've never thought of fire in a weed control situation, so that's very interesting. And if you actually are able to do that down in Chickasha, I think that would be phenomenal to follow up on.
TBD, TBD. The Chickasha is a little hard because the highway's right there.
Yeah.
So we gotta get the wind just right.
Right.
Michael Pettyjohn said he's done controlled burns over there, but it is on that like back section over by the river.
Yeah.
And the wind has to be blowing just right.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so it's not an annual thing.
Yeah.
But
go down to the Congo. All you need is a slight north breeze, and you can burn the Congo all year long.
There it is.
Yeah,
we burned it right off 33. You just got to tell the local fire department what's going on. They'll be all right.
Yeah. The problem is everybody's slowing down on the highway to see what you're doing.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we used to burn sugarcane stalks back in Louisiana, and the biggest thing, like you said, smoke and ash management I mean, since those fields are so close to the public, it's, going into hospitals and old folks' homes and schools and stuff like that. That's a big issue. So, I mean, burning needs to be done intelligently.
Yes.
We have to be very smart on it.
I agree.
It is a good tool.
Yeah, it's a good tool, and it's already it's the Okie way to set things
on fire. It's the Okie way.
It's in the history.
Yes. So racing chaff lines. That's going to be
racing chaff lines.
Yeah, 2026. That's a goal. Well, Liberty, thank you so much for going on with us. This has been a lot of fun.
Thanks, you guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening in on this conversation of the Red Dirt Agronomy Podcast. And if you'd like to join the next discussion, leave us a message on our website, reddirtagronomy.com. We would like to thank Dr. Liberty Galvin for joining us this week on the podcast. And again, if you get a chance, visit our website, reddirtagronomy.com, to find out more information about our guests and any of the resources that we discussed today on the podcast. For Dr. Josh Lofton and Dr. Brian Ernell, I am Dave Deacon, and we all want to thank you for listening. The proceeding is a copyrighted recording of Agnow Media, LLC 2026. And yes, all rights are reserved.